I'm here for Attitude Magazine's weekly ADHD Experts webinar series. For many children and many of us in ADHD households, Minecraft is more than a hobby, it's almost an obsession. And while, you know, we worry about anything in excess, Minecraft itself offers a lot for kids with ADHD and LDs. It can help build executive function skills, it can improve processing speeds and working memory if it's used in conjunction with a balanced play diet. But there are other options besides Minecraft. So today, our guests are Randy Kulman and James Daley of Learning Works for Kids, and they're going to tell us about additional video games and apps for children that offer similar benefits. They'll be talking about such topics as why Minecraft and similar video games are so incredibly appealing, how and why apps and games can sharpen our children's skills, both from emotional control to problem solving, how you can leverage as a parent a Minecraft obsession into a learning opportunity. James specifically will talk about Minecraft-like games and technologies and apps, Toco Blocks, Terraria, Eden World Builder, and others. And Randy will also talk on some of the issues that many of you have raised in previous webinars about how to limit and manage screen time. So thank you so much, Randy and James, for joining us again today. We're always so happy to have you back. Let me just tell you briefly about Randy and James. Randy Kulman's a PhD. He's the founder and the president of Learning Works for Kids. That's a website. You'll see it on your slides. It's an educational technology company. It specializes in using video games and interactive digital media to teach executive functioning and academic skills. And James Daley is a writer, editor, and digital designer and has a passion for creative, innovative online media. He is the editor-in-chief of Learning Works for Kids. Let me just take a moment first to mention our sponsor today. We are so grateful every week to our sponsors because they allow us to present this information week after week, which is so needed by our listeners at absolutely no cost to anyone. Today's sponsor, interesting, wonderful company, Play Attention. It is a brain training system designed to help children and adults with ADHD improve both their skills and their impulse control. It's the only brain training system that combines both neurofeedback and cognitive training in the same system and to effectively improve attention, behavior, and learning skills. So for more information, please visit Play Attention online, www.playattention.com. Before we start, let me just talk a bit about the webinar process. You can post your questions in the box on your screen anytime. Randy and James will take as many questions as they can after they finish their slide presentation. If you have any problems hearing us, please dial in via your phone line. If you'd like to take notes, please download the slides now from the control panel on your right. It's a section called Handouts. Or after our session ends, you can find a replay of this webinar as if you were there. You can listen to it and watch it, including the slides, on our website on attitudemag.com/webinars. So with that, let me turn it over to James and Randy. Thank you again. Okay.
Thank you again for having us, Susan. We really appreciate the opportunity to be with you and the audience out there. We're thrilled to be there. We want to tell you a little bit about ourselves first. So Learning Works for Kids is a website that's really great for parents, educators, clinicians of kids with ADHD, learning disabilities, autism spectrum disorders, where we give you all kinds of terrific recommendations, personalized, to help kids to use video games and other digital media to improve executive functioning skills and academic skills. So if your kid loves technology and you want to find popular, fun technologies to use and know how to use them, we're the place for you. We really try to make, our effort is really about making these technologies good for kids. And if you want to follow us in any of these ways, we really appreciate anybody taking an interest in us, liking us on Facebook, or following us on Twitter, and here's some of our social media information. So I want to talk to you, before I start talking about this, just a little bit about how, as a psychologist, I get interested in this. I work with so many ADHD kids. So many of those kids come into the office. They love technology. They've been loving technology for 25 years. The last 5 or 6 years, it feels like all I hear about every day is Minecraft. What do you like to do? I like to play Minecraft. So we got particularly interested in Minecraft and have kind of explored that in detail. But the reality is that lots of kids with ADHD love video games. They're really engaged. In fact, I've come up with a word. I call it engagement. They put their heart and soul into the game. They're with the game totally. You can't get their focus away from it, and sometimes you can't get them to leave the game. But it's difficult. But there's some reasons for kids with ADHD to like video games. They get this kind of clear, constant, immediate feedback, just the kind of feedback the kids with ADHD need to have. They are allowed to practice. They can keep doing the same thing time and time again until they get it right, and there's no one there to judge them. Kids with ADHD like a lot of stimulation, and video games are often multimodal. It goes anywhere from, the sound to music to the visual piece, and for some of the games, movement as well. In fact, one of the best kinds of games for kids with ADHD are games that involve movement. We have great research that supports how exercise, and particularly certain types of body movements that are complex, can change the brain in a positive way for kids with ADHD. It changes the neurochemistry of the brain. So playing video games that involve movement can be really helpful for kids with ADHD. So there's a lot of reasons that kids with ADHD love video games, and they get engaged with them, and they will play them sometimes nonstop. So okay. So one of the questions is, whoops, sorry, we moved the slide too far. It's responding there we go. It's responding very slowly to us. There we go. So one of the reasons that video games are actually such a powerful tool is that they're actually very similar to the ways that we intervene with kids with ADHD. The most effective ways that we do that with kids with ADHD. The first thing is that kids with ADHD respond to something that happens immediately. So any kind of behavioral management system that we have for kids with ADHD, that's how it works. Well, video games provide immediate feedback. If you make a mistake, you know it, you learn from it, you go back and you change it. Okay, so when it's happening right at the point of intervention. Okay, so in other words, when something happens, the point of performance where the kid is at in the real world for kids with ADHD, that's when we want to intervene. The same thing happens in video games. Video games are great because they give powerful consequences that mean something to the kids. Okay, so sometimes we can motivate kids with ADHD to get their homework done quickly if they know they get to go outside and play with their friend. Video games provide that same type of powerful reinforcement and reward for kids, and it happens on a regular basis. Video games also show that allow kids to do some of the things that they might like to do otherwise when they have ADHD. So they're able to move, they're able to talk, especially some of the video games that kids are playing socially now. And much of what kids play with video games these days is social. It's not individual. It's not stuck in a room by themselves. Most of the games the kids play, and you'll see that's true with Minecraft, you'll certainly see that's true with many of the first-person shooters like Call of Duty. They're playing with their friends, and they're getting immediate feedback, they're conversing. There's a kind of a multimodal experience to that. So what are some of the skills that can be taken from Minecraft and other video games? So here you see a long list of research that talks about how video games can improve a variety of skills. They can improve problem-solving skills, working memory. There's a great deal of studies that suggest how they can improve working memory. Processing speed, interesting enough. Some of the first-person shooters and action games can improve processing speed. The research that you see there by Green and Bavali at the top of the page is pretty substantial. There's been a series of studies, not one study, but maybe 15 to 20 studies that demonstrate those kinds of skills can be transferred from game to the real world. Now, perhaps modest gains, but some gains. There's been data that suggests that playing the game StarCraft, for example, can improve flexibility in thinking, an executive function, if you will. There are other games that are not popular games that can actually improve skills as well. So, for example, the sponsors of today, Play Attention, and another tool called Project Evo, put out which is being investigated now by the Qari company, have been demonstrated, at least in early research, to be able to improve focus and concentration in kids. Now, these are not popular video games that you buy off the shelf, but nonetheless, they're video game-like tools that can improve focus and attention. So there's lots of evidence that these kinds of games can improve skills. Now, in Minecraft, we look at it a little bit differently. Yeah, you can probably play Minecraft and improve a bunch of skills, and you can certainly improve those skills in the game. But in Minecraft, as in a lot of other video games, our perspective at Learning Works for Kids is just sitting a kid in front of the video game and expecting them to improve their executive functioning skills dramatically, or to improve even other academic skills or problem solving, the social emotional learning skills. We think that they're actually practicing the skills in the game, but the best way to get those skills to go outside of the game is to mediate that. In other words, a parent, a teacher, maybe an older sibling, a clinician, needs to help the kid to take the skills they're using in the game, think about them, be reflective, use a metacognitive process, and then go outside of the game and connect it to real-world skills. So what we do at Learning Works for Kids is we actually give parents very specific ideas about conversations to have with the kids about a game that they might be playing, and then very clear activities that actually practice the same skill that the kid is using in the game in the real world. And keep in mind, it's a whole heck of a lot easier to get a kid to practice these skills when they can be talking about a game and thinking about playing the game beforehand. The game is really a teaching tool as opposed to the way that they learn the skill. And in Minecraft, there's some incredible skills that kids can learn. They can learn how to focus because they have to pay attention in the game to monitor their health meters, and they have to be very focused so they don't die in the beginning of the game. They have to be flexible. They have to learn how to build things. They have to learn how to craft things with different objects, and they have to make their own sort of recipes, if you will, that put things together. Organizational skills are incredibly important in Minecraft. Kids need to be able to gather certain materials, put them in certain places so that they can build a shelter, for example, to protect them in the nighttime from the Endermen and from the creepers and from all the dangers that are there. Planning is incredibly important in Minecraft. Think about planning in Minecraft like when kids play Legos. And by the way, we've done some interesting research on this too. We've asked probably about 500 parents about how much their kids show the symptoms of ADHD when they're playing Minecraft, or when they're playing Legos, or when they're doing their homework, and a lot of other things. And what we found is that parents will report to us very clearly that kids show very few symptoms. It doesn't mean that they don't have ADHD, but they show very few symptoms of ADHD when they're doing things like playing Minecraft or other video games, and doing other things like playing Legos, for example. Legos is a game that really is a very powerful tool as well. So one of the keys that we look at Learning Works for Kids, and one of the things I want parents and educators to hear from us today, is that we're not suggesting to you that just put the kids in front of a game and have them play the game. That the best way to make these games into really powerful learning opportunities. They'll learn something from the game and they'll develop some skills, but to really make it powerful, you've got to go beyond the game. And here are some of the things. These are basically strategic teaching principles. You have to help the kids recognize what they're doing in the game. You've got to help them to think about it, be reflective about it, and you have to then help them to generalize and transfer that knowledge. We talk about that in 3 simple steps, and if you can remember this, it might be helpful for you anytime your child's playing a game to see if you can get them to go beyond the game to develop some real-world skills. We talk about detect, reflect, connect. So it's a simple thing to remember: detect, reflect, connect. The detect is to help the kid identify the skills they use in the game so they recognize them. The reflect is to help them to think about the skills in the game and how those same skills might help them in the real world. And the connect is really about using those skills in the real world, about being able to apply them and transfer those skills from the game to the real world, to make game-based learning into real-world learning. So, why do kids love Minecraft so much? What's the deal with Minecraft that's so powerful? Well, I think that if you think about kids with ADHD, a lot of times they don't really want to follow the directions. They don't want to go to the beat of the drummer. They want to kind of look for things on their own. Minecraft is a sandbox game. It's an open-ended game. There are no rules. You don't have to do anything in particular. You can choose to do whatever you want. In fact, when I interview kids about their interest in Minecraft, that's the first thing they tell me. You can do whatever you want. You can build whatever you want. You don't have to have a particular quest. You can go in any place you want. And you can explore. And these are all things that I think are vital to kids with ADHD. Kids with ADHD like to explore. They like to look at new things. They like to be creative. One of the things that happens in Minecraft is that your sense of achievement can happen anytime in any place in the game. And when you make mistakes, it's not a big deal. For so many kids with ADHD, they have self-esteem issues that they've experienced because they just feel badly about their lack of success in school. But in Minecraft, it doesn't matter because if you make a mistake, you correct it. In fact, it teaches you to be more flexible. Minecraft is also great because it connects kids with other kids. Not only does it connect them socially online with other kids, it connects them when they go to school, because what is every 8-year-old kid talking about in school? Minecraft. Now, interestingly enough, I caught myself. I almost said, what is every 8-year-old boy talking about in school? And it's not the case any longer. It used to, you know, when I first started hearing about Minecraft, and Minecraft came out about 2009, it seemed to be a place that teenagers were congregating, that they were interested in it. Over the course of time, the kids who began playing it became younger and younger. And in the last few years, I see as many girls who are playing Minecraft as boys playing Minecraft. So it's really changed dramatically in that way. And it's really easy to get into. When I ask kids about how they learn to play Minecraft, most of them, they tell me, well, I watched my brother or my sister play it, or my friends played and they told me about it, because it's so easy to enter. And I think that's another reason why kids with ADHD love Minecraft as well. So how do we take Minecraft and make it into other interests? So the first thing you got to do is you got to talk to your kid about Minecraft. You got to ask them about it. You got to have a little bit of interest. If you want to learn a little bit more about Minecraft, I would really encourage you to do so. Actually, one of the things that we've done at LearnWorks for Kids is we've created some Minecraft videos for parents. We have a Minecraft Let's Play station. It's a YouTube station where you can go to and you can watch Minecraft videos, or your kids can watch. Most of them for kids. They're Minecraft videos that your kids can watch. That actually, you know those videos that your kids are watching already on YouTube? That's these, okay? That your kids can go watch, where our students, our college students who are major Minecraft players, talk a little bit about the executive skills that kids are using in the game. So as the kid is watching the video, and they're a lot of fun, our students are really funny, they know the game really well, they're teaching them how to do things. But every once in a while they interject a little bit about, hey, we're using some planning skills here, and you could use these planning skills when you need to figure out how to do a project at school. So the videos are a lot of fun, and they're a great tool for your kid. I strongly encourage you to go take a look at those. We're also developing, we've got 1 or 2 right now, and we're building a whole bunch more of Minecraft videos for parents, so you can learn a little bit about Minecraft and know what it's about. As opposed to the videos for the kids, which are probably 15 minutes long, and the kids like that. These are much shorter videos, so you don't have to watch a long video, but there's a series of them that'll help you to learn about Minecraft. So first, if you know about it, you can talk to your kids. And once you start doing that, you're going to find that there's a lot of interest that you can pursue. A lot of kids who play Minecraft are making their own videos, for example. They're doing coding. They're doing modding of the games. I have a close friend who has a 12-year-old son who is now doing all kinds of programming on a Disney model of Minecraft, and was hired after. Was actually hired. He's actually getting paid at 12 years old to do this kind of work. Kids who are interested in Minecraft become interested in architecture, history, mechanics, engineering, mining, like Minecraft, okay? Geology, I mean, the map making, Minecraft is a map in general. When you go to each new place, you're seeing a new map. Kids who play Minecraft love outdoor activities. They can do things like building a fort, hiking and exploring, but you got to make it happen, because the key thing with Minecraft is you got to get them away from the screen. They could play Minecraft all day. Well, many kids could play Minecraft all day, and you need to be insistent that they do this, but one of the only ways you can really do it effectively is if you're involved with them, if you're talking about that, if you're getting them to look outside of the game. So the next thing we want to do is James is going to talk to you a little bit about some other games that are like Minecraft.
So before I get into the specific games that we're going to talk about, most of which are games with similar themes and also that help build similar skills to Minecraft, I just want to reiterate a bit of what Randy had said earlier about why Minecraft is good for kids, and specifically kids with ADHD. And the general reason that we talk about games being good has to do with the way that they practice thinking skills and executive functions. And by practicing these specific skills, how they build them in a similar way to playing soccer is something that you would do for fun, but it's still building cardiovascular fitness. It's building strength in your muscles and your legs and in your core. And in that same way, playing games that require certain cognitive skills, even though they're not being played specifically for the purpose of exercising those skills or building those skills, practice them and can thereby be used to build those skills. And with something like Minecraft, as Randy said, it touches on a number of different thinking skills. But even if you just think about something like focus, which is obviously of a concern for kids with ADHD, think about how hard it is for some kids to sustain their attention on a task, even a creative task for school, for 20 minutes or an hour. I was thinking about my daughter a few weeks back had to do she's in 3rd grade, she had to do a poster of her family tree. And it probably took about 8 hours on a Saturday to actually get it done. 7.5 hours of that were just me and my wife trying to keep her on task and stop her from getting distracted and pay attention to this little poster that she was doing. Meanwhile, she can spend 4 hours on Minecraft building an incredibly complex structure that takes a ton of concentration and sustained effort. And part of the idea of what we're doing here is we're showing how to generalize that. And what I talked to my daughter about and really helped towards the end of that process was how it is the same skill, how paying attention to a creative project for school or anything over a long period of time is the same skill that you're using when you are paying attention to something over an extended period of time in a game like Minecraft. So the first game that we're going to talk about here is called Roblox. It is in a lot of ways similar to Minecraft. It is a game in which you craft and build things. It's a construction game. It would certainly be great for any kids who are into the construction and building aspect of Minecraft. It gets a little bit more in depth in terms of the real departure is that in Roblox you are actually creating games as well that other people can play. So there are servers with millions of kids all over the world. So instead of just building a world that maybe you can share with somebody, you can actually build a fully functional game that other kids can then come, or other people, or even your parents can come and play. So, we'd really recommend that for kids who like Minecraft, who want to get a bit more deeper into it, who want to, maybe have an interest in things like game design and a little bit more on the programming side of things. The next game we have here. Blockheads is very similar to Minecraft. In a lot of ways, it's simply a two-dimensional Minecraft. As you can see from the screenshot there, it looks a lot like Minecraft. The real differences are that it's a bit easier to get into. It also has something of a Sims-like system for monitoring the kind of health and well-being and happiness of the people that you're putting in Minecraft. It's got a bit more of a social side like that. Again, probably recommend it for kids who are into Minecraft. You just want to try something different. One of the ways that you can help to build cognitive skills is by not just doing the same thing over and over again. One of the great things about Minecraft is that kids get into it, but there's only so much, just like when you're exercising a muscle at the gym. If you keep on exercising the same muscle in the same way, it stops having the same amount of benefits. And so just mixing things up with a somewhat different game, like a two-dimensional version that has a few different objectives, like the Blockheads, can be great for kids. And a lot of kids just like it. Terraria is kind of taking that same idea of Blockheads another step further. It is also a game that involves crafting and building. It is also two-dimensional like Blockheads, it's side-scrolling, but it's much closer to kind of your classic Nintendo platform game. It's kind of a cross between Minecraft and Super Mario Brothers, if that makes sense, where you are creating structures and you're kind of mining for things and creating different weapons and defense systems and things like that, but you are also having to go up against boss battles, and it's got more challenges, more of a survival type of game mode. You can really win over increasingly more difficult challenges as the game goes on. Again, probably for kids who maybe aren't as into the fully open world side of Minecraft, or just want to try something different. If they like Minecraft and they also like kind of the more classic video games and platformers, then Terraria is a great choice to try. Let's see what's next here. Tokablocks. This is a great game from Tokaboka. Many of you might have seen some of their other games. It skews a bit younger than the other ones. You know, this is great for kids probably as young as 4 or 5 years old can start to play this. It takes a similar idea of you are kind of building things, you're crafting, but in this case it makes it much more simple so that younger kids can do it. And it focuses a bit on kind of creating obstacle courses for your little characters to be able to go over, and you can kind of hand the game back and forth to your friends. So one kid will create a level here, and a friend can go and try and beat it. Again, this is great, you know, especially if you have maybe a younger sibling who is a bit too young for Minecraft, but they've got an older sibling who loves it. They can get into something like Tokablocks as a first step. And it's a great whimsical game. Again, deals with a lot of the same cognitive skills, but a bit younger and a bit more simplified. Next. Even World Builder is probably the most similar to Minecraft. It's really it came out on the iPad and iPhone before Minecraft was available there. It takes a very similar kind of world. It's an open world where you can kind of create everything from scratch using blocks and you know, mining for different materials. There's some key differences. It's a bit skewed more towards the creative side than the survival side. You can kind of do more with color. You can be a bit more artistic with it. Again, it's really just, this one's more of just a different take on the whole Minecraft idea. And from my own experience with kids, some kids just like it better. Some kids like the ability to color things differently. I know some of my daughter and her friends like it better just because it gives them options to create a much more colorful world that they can't necessarily do as easily in Minecraft. You know, maybe kids who are a bit more on the artistic side would enjoy it. I believe that's the last game that's similar. Let's see if we can make sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm back up here. So one of the big questions that we always get from parents and these types of webinars, and for that matter, what I get in my clinical work with patients in my offices, you know, what do you do with the kids that just keep playing? They won't get off, and you know, and that's really difficult. It's particularly difficult for kids with attentional difficulties because, by definition, they struggle to transition. They struggle to shift very readily. So my first approach, and I write about this a lot in a book that I wrote called Playing Smarter in a Digital World. If you just look up my last name, Kulman, on Amazon, you can find it, is to have a healthy play diet. Now, the key thing about a healthy play diet, what I mean by that is this, is that you need to have a balance of different kinds of play. We do not believe that digital play is a bad thing at all. In fact, digital play should be seen as an important part of what 21st century kids do. Digital play involving using computers and technology and playing video games, but it's supposed to be a part of it. Healthy kids are outside, they're running around, they're social, they're doing creative things, they're involved in unstructured play. So kids need to have a balanced play diet, and I think that's the role of the parent to make that happen. It varies for each kid based upon their age. There are different things that are developmentally appropriate for teenagers versus younger children, and then it also varies based upon the family in terms of just your own sensibilities, your time frame, your limitations in terms of what you can do with your kids. But all kids need all these types of things, and that technology can be so immersive and so engaging that sometimes it's really hard to get away from it. And that's not just for kids, by the way. If you think about it, I'm probably talking to some of you as well. So in order to help your kids to have a healthy play diet, here we go. the first thing you need to do is you need to show a little bit. You need to model it, okay? You need to do other activities. You need to get outside and exercise. You need to, and you'll see I focus on the exercise piece a lot here, in part because we know that kids with ADHD and kids with learning disabilities, that when they engage in vigorous exercise, that they increase a brain protein, brain-derived neurotrophic factor that helps them to concentrate and to learn. So we know that these kids need to exercise. We have great data that says they need to be outside in order to do the best. So you have to find a way to get those things to happen. And you have to make it an expectation at home that, you know, you will be involved in a variety of activities. Unfortunately, in today's world, sometimes you've got to make those activities more attractive. You've got to do some things to, you know, to make going to the gym more interesting by bringing a friend along. You need to sometimes put money into something. You need to, you know, you may need to pay for a gymnastics class. You may need to put up a basketball hoop. If you live in the city, you may need to join a gym if you can do that, or you may need to take some time to go for a walk or a run in the park. You've got to find ways to make this stuff more attractive, okay? You also need to be realistic when we talk about a healthy play diet. A healthy play diet does include some digital play. It does involve some screen time. Sitting in front of a screen is not the worst thing in the world to do. And sometimes allowing a child to sit in front of the screen is maybe the best thing for everybody to do. If you're taking a 4-hour drive to grandma's house for Easter, then I suggest that you give your kids tablets in the back seat if you can, and let them play and have everybody get along. Okay. On the other hand, you know, when you get to grandma's, you know, you put the tablets away and you visit with your family. Nonetheless, a play diet, which I think is a wonderful idea, that I think is the place that you want to start, isn't always effective. It's not always enough. And so sometimes you need to go beyond what is a healthy play diet. Okay? And when you need to do that, you need to be able to have some limit setting strategies, which I hope this slide's going to come up. It's taking its time here. There we go. It just took its time. Okay. So, you know, the first thing I would say, if you're going to set some limits and really have some strategies, is make it enforceable, that you can do, but also recognize that you need to be flexible. But what I mean by that is, for example, don't tell your kids you can have, you know, 1 hour of screen time a day, and you come home from work at 6 o'clock and they're home at 3:30, and, you know, they shut the TV off at 5:30 to make sure it's not warm. Okay, so that, you know, you're not, so you got to make it enforceable. You got to find some ways to make that kind of stuff happen. You also have to make it flexible. If it's a rainy day and everybody wants to sit down and watch a movie, and that's considered to be your screen time, well, so be it. I also suggest that parents not punish themselves. Okay, sometimes, you know, parents want to be so rigid with screen time that they end up making it difficult for themselves. So here are some basic limit setting strategies. Scheduling, probably the single best one to do. The most common thing I hear about from parents is about 1 hour a day with video games. There's some great data. Forgetting his last name, Shabilsky, Andrew Shabilsky, a psychologist in Great Britain, did some great research, found out that 1 hour a day for kids playing video games is actually associated with better mental health and psychological adjustment and self-esteem than 3 hours or more a day, and than no hours a day. So that's a really important thing to think about. And it makes sense. Kids who play a little bit of video games have more to share with their friends. They're involved in some good cognitive skills and development. They're kind of connecting with other people. Another strategy is rules and limitations, where you deny it at specific times, where you make sure that you can't get to your technologies, and you can certainly do that in a lot of ways. You can do that, by contacting your cell phone company, shutting off the internet. Another tool that I don't really like, another strategy, is games as rewards. It suggests in some ways that it's kind of like you can have dessert after your dinner, as if digital play is all dessert. It's not all dessert. There's some parts of it that are really valuable and worthwhile. And another way is curation. So in other words, just picking and choosing what your kids can play, but not necessarily setting limits on the amount of time. There are also some other strategies that you need to use when you have particularly tough kids. Okay. First one is you own the technology. So anytime they want to use it, they have to ask you. Now, that gives you an awful lot of arguments sometimes. But it's one that you can do. Controlling the internet. This is actually not so hard to do. Simply put the router in your bedroom, okay, and shut it off. If you need to have a key, if you need to lock your door, well, so be it. Or you can even get apps on your cell phone to control the router remotely. As long as you can keep your password private, you can do it. It works. As I was saying before, you can use parental controls on cell phones and tablets. One of the tools that we really like, we've just become introduced to over the last month, and we're using it ourselves, is Screen Time. This is a Screen Time app right there. It's called Screen Time. If you want to go to the site, just click on that link there. Screen Time is very cool because the parent can control it from their own device, on their kid's device. It can improve communication. You can create some rewards for compliance. You can even do things like, if you want your kids to be able to use a tablet, say at nighttime to read, you can set it up so the kids can do that. So it's a really great tool, and it really avoids a lot of the arguments that go on. You can decide that your kids get an hour a day. You can decide they get an hour and a half a day. You can decide to increase the amount of time. You can also pause it. You know, when you ask your kids to come down for dinner and they say, 1 more minute, and they don't come down for dinner? Well, when you have Screen Time, you can simply touch a button on Screen Time, shut the kid's device off, and, well, they're either going to yell and scream, or they're going to just come down and have dinner because they know you can do it. So that's the last slide for us, I think. Mm-hmm. And here's our thank you slide. So again, if you can, we really appreciate follows on Twitter. We'd love to have you come like us on Facebook. We've got some great material at Pinterest, and our site is a tremendous place for learning about limit setting, for learning about the best games for kids, and for also individualizing stuff for your child. So if you have a child that has, for example, some executive function issues with organization, with planning, with working memory, you can come to our site. You can fill out our executive skills questionnaire. We'll give you prescriptions of games and apps that will help your kid with activities, conversations for you to have, and then all kinds of other activities and strategies for you to use to help your child that are very highly individualized for kids. So we're looking forward to questions now.
Thank you so much, Randy and James. Great presentation. A question from a couple of people. You mentioned some videos on your site, and a couple of people would like to know where they can find those on your site. So
if they go on to the website, on the left nav bar, I guess, there's something there's a link that they can click called Let's Play Videos.
Okay.
And Let's Play Videos are, again, we've got them on Minecraft, we've got them on Portal 2, on Star Wars Battlefront, on Hearthstone, on the games that kids love. And there are college students who are gamers. They love games, who have made these. We actually also now have a Twitch channel that we'll put up there shortly. We did our first live streaming for those parents who know about the kids watching live streams. And again, our live streams are with the intention of helping the kids recognize that there's some skills they're using in these games. So the live streams, we'll put a link up for that as well. We just started that last week, but we're live streaming Minecraft, we're live streaming Hearthstone, we'll be live streaming, I think Star Wars Battlefront, I think, was another one, but that's up to the students. They're the gamers who choose to do that. But again, in that streaming, they're talking about executive functioning skills that kids are using in the game and how they can apply them in the real world.
Okay, great. Let's see. Lots of questions about the problems relating to use of video games. So let me just, before we get to those, let me just ask a couple of clarifying questions relating to the menu of options that you laid out. One person asks, is Roblox appropriate for elementary age students? What's the age range?
Roblox is going to be a little bit more difficult for those students, but it is not necessarily inappropriate. As with anything that involves online play, you know, you always have to be cautious of the kinds of people they're going to run into. Roblox tends to have a pretty good community. It's not one of those games where you frequently run into you know, a lot of bad language, although, you know, if you play many of these games, you'll notice that often the people engaging in bad language are elementary school students themselves.
Really?
But
yes,
you recommend just 10 and up.
Cynthia, actually, on Roblox says her 9-year-old loves the game. But the games that he plays on that site can be very violent, and the chatting can be cruel, bullying, and bad language is used. So I guess that's what you're talking about.
I heard that too, actually, about Roblox than some of the other games. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you know, as James was saying, we recommend 10 and up, but we also suggest that parents, you know, take a role in this and take a look at these kinds of things and see what's appropriate, you know, what they feel is okay. I mean, I have kids that come into my office all the time who are playing the Call of Duty games, and I'm cringing. But
right.
the parents' decision. So.
Yeah, and again, because the game, a lot of what the game is kids creating games for other kids. It doesn't have the kind of strict content limitations that you're going to have from, you know, a game that's been ESRB rated to a certain age level. So if that's something you're concerned about with your child, then definitely just be a little bit more engaged with watching what they're doing. Certainly with anything, any kind of an online game is a form of social media. So
Right.
you know, until you've had some good conversations with your kids about social media and bullying and all of those things that are involved, then you probably don't want to let them play until you feel like they understand what's involved in all that.
Okay. We actually have a post from a 12-year-old, Janet. She says, I am 12, and I play Roblox, and my mother and I agree it's a great game for all ages. So there's a vote from a 12-year-old. There you go. Question about Civilization, the game Civilization, and another question about a game called Spore, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, let me find that. Yeah. My son loves Spore. So any similar games to that?
So Civilization is like a strategy game. The Sid Meier's games that are, they're a little bit different than, well, they're considerably different in terms of gameplay than something like a Minecraft. It does use some of the same kinds of thinking skills we find, planning, flexibility. We talked specifically about Civilization. But that kind of a strategy game, let's see what else we have here.
So is that sort of like Settlers of Catan or something like that, or?
Yeah, that would be another.
Yeah, right.
You know, well, no, there is actually a video game version of Settlers of Catan, but
there is. Okay.
But there are things like Field Runners, Kingdom Rush, League of Legends, which is also definitely more of a online game where you can run
strategy.
So
Yeah,
watch out for that.
all the kids there.
All the kids. Okay, so these are high school kids, because there is also a question about what are the best games for high school students. So it sounds like some of these may be in that category.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Civilization is great for high school students. It's a game that's more challenging. I think the biggest issue with that for younger kids would just be the complexity of the game.
Right.
And yeah, StarCraft is also another one that fits into that same kind of a category.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some other ones, Agrario. My son is totally into it, says Tanya. What do you think of that game?
Qari, yeah. They were just talking about that on the latest House of Cards episode that I watched.
Really? Oh my gosh.
President Watch was playing it with the other candidate. So that's a really interesting game. That's a game where you I believe it's only for mobile. I could be wrong about that, but in that game you essentially you play this little dot and you have to go after other smaller dots, and you get bigger by eating smaller dots, and you have to watch out for bigger dots that can eat you. But each dot is an actual person somewhere in the world.
Oh, wow.
So I don't believe there is, and again, don't quote me on this, I'm not super familiar with the game, but I don't believe there's communication necessarily back and forth. It's mostly just play itself. But it is a really fun game. It's interesting. Just not terribly similar to something like Minecraft, because it's one of those kind of you play and then you lose very quickly and you keep on playing again. But definitely something that requires a lot of focus. It requires a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
Similar to Osmosis is another similar game to that.
Right. Are there any games, asks Lawrence, that can be used to help teach math by stealth, as he puts it?
Yeah, there's lots of games that.
Yeah, one of the ways to find that out, and is in the way that James is doing it right now. He's just simply going onto our site, looking at our games and apps search engine, and plugging in math games. And so what we have there are games that are really not designed as math apps. They're not skill and drill things. They're just games where you've got to do some addition. You've got to do some graphing. You've got to use other math skills. You have to have some kind of number sense. So it's a stealth way of getting kids to kind of take a look at some games. And James, I don't know if you can give a list of those.
So I mean, we have a number of different games. Some that are more specifically math games that things like Math versus Zombies and Mathmateer, things that are actual math games. But then you also have games like what was mentioned before, Civ 5, or similar games like Napoleon, where there's so many statistics and there's so many different kind of metrics. If you've got these strategy games in particular, just require a lot of mathematical thinking in terms of seeing, how many of this kind of troop are you making? How many of this kind of castle are you making? And, you have to think about the fact that each mining colony you build can give you, 10 rocks per minute, and you need to get to 50 rocks to make your castle wall, and so you're constantly having to do math in your head. Most of these kind of games, and we talk about them more as being helpful with this thinking skill of mathematics. They're not going to teach a kid, how to do long division. There are games that will do that, but they're not really hidden math games. They're more specifically math games. But they do just help to improve mathematical thinking and computation and being able to compute on the fly, because so much of that is simply practice. And simple things like, learning your times tables, when you have to constantly be doing those kind of mathematical calculations in your head to make decisions for a game, is a great way to practice things like times tables.
And Minecraft, by the way, involves all kinds of math in terms of geometry, in terms of the number of things. When you're mining and you're having to put together supplies and crafting something, you need to recognize how many things you need. So it's always involving math. I mean, when I watch kids play, and when we do some of our Let's Play videos, I mean, that's one of the things that comes up all the time, is you're really having to keep count of things. You have to keep track of things. So,
right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of the way we grew up playing cards, having to track cards on the playing. So just a few more questions about specific games, and let's turn to the monitoring the aspects. Terratech, is Terratech a good game? It's a quote from Janet.
Terratech, I don't believe we have that one. Okay. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with it. I believe that's kind of a similar to Minecraft, but I'm not sure what the differences are.
Do you Dragon Box for algebra, someone suggested, Prodigy math game. So anyway, number of posts. We will post these afterwards for people who have suggested.
Great. That'd be cool.
So let's see. Turning to the problems, I think the number one issue that's probably posted here 10 times is parents who say their children have a serious meltdown to a degree which they find really difficult to deal with when they try to manage stop the game playing. When they decide, if they set a limit and they decide this is the end of the time, they just face a real wall of serious resistance, meltdown. Any suggestions on that kind of behavior? And some people feel that although video games may teach skills, some of the behavior that comes from the obsession with it, they wonder if it's really worth it, given what happens.
Yeah.
In other words, this person says, it's extremely hard for my child to stop playing, and it seems to affect his behavior in a very negative way. What do you think? Oh.
Well, I can tell you this, in my clinical practice, I hear that routinely. I would say I hear that at least once a week, where a parent will tell me about that. And I think there are some kids where the video game play is just problematic for them, and those are kids who may really need to be restricted from it, and just it be taken away for at least a period of time until they can try it again and see if they can adjust to that and deal with it. So I think that's rare. I would say to you that's not 10 or 20% of the kids, but it happens. It happens enough, and I imagine that part of what happens even in an audience like today is that we're going to have more parents who have those concerns about it. And almost by definition, some of the kids that we see, at least in my office, who have ADHD or comorbid ADHDs, where there's a complexity to this, there may be other issues as well. so that when we see kids with the, you know, that complexity of issue, you know, we're more likely to see that kind of stuff. So I think that there are some kids where you do simply need to eliminate it, and that's what you need to do. I think that for many kids, though, using a tool like screen time or some other limit setting tool, you know, and you may need to combine that with, you know, shutting off a cell phone at certain times with your cell phone company, or turning off the internet in your house, but that something that's highly structured and it's very clear. It starts off as a discussion with the kids, which says, this is what we're going to do. The parents are in charge, but they say, this is what we're going to do. You're going to get this much time, and this is how it's going to work. And in this case, they need to be a little bit more rigid. They need to not have as much flexibility in terms of other kinds of things. And so that the confrontation isn't, go shut this off. It shuts off immediately. Every day at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m., the internet goes off in our house. Every day you've got an hour on your tablet to play this, and you can keep track of it. The kid can see that, and they know what's happening, and they're going to get frustrated. In the first couple of days, I'm sure it's not going to be easy for some of those kids. But I think that when it becomes real clear, and so the parents are in control, and they're not arguing anymore. They're simply in control, that it works better.
Okay. Some of the parents have posted some tips. Timer is your friend, says Aaron.
Right.
And preset limits are key, says Stuart. So these are some tips from parents who are listening in as to how they have managed that time limit.
Yeah, and that's exactly what, you know, a tool like screen time, and there are other tools out there as well, can do. It's sort of, you know, it's an exact amount of time. It's a clearly set limit. It's a timer that the kids can see. So those kinds of tools, I think, you know, and again, I think that that's a secondary thing to having that healthy play diet and kind of really focusing on the other issues. But that's not always going to be enough for some kids.
And I would also just like to interject that with something like having a meltdown or a tantrum when it comes time to turn it off, you can use that as a teachable moment, as a tool for working on that kind of frustration and inflexibility in an environment where, you know, the things that are being discussed are fairly black and white. It's either keep on playing or not playing. It's not happening in public. It's not happening at Christmas dinner over something. It's a way to work on this issue of throwing temper tantrums when a kid isn't getting their way or is asked to give up something that they like in an environment that's often better than other environments you might need to work on it, and just a way to kind of help improve that aspect of your relationship and the kid's behavior in general. So I wouldn't necessarily look at it as, you know, this means that we shouldn't play this game, as much as, you know, this is something that we need to address and to use some of these tools like, you know, structured timers and
right. So Sarah says, here's what works for us. We have a clear and inflexible schedule. It ends when it ends. There's no wishy-washy. There's no ability to earn extra time. It's over. So there's one strategy. Yeah. And here's another one from Victoria, which is interesting. She said, my son had a terrible problem coming off the game, so I made him stop completely for a week, talked about what was going on. When he was allowed to start playing again, I made the rules very clear and explained that if he couldn't follow them, he'd be taken off for another week. It took over a month or 2 months, but we've got now, she's now managed to have a non-tantrum situation after the 1 week limit. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, that's kind of how kids learn other things too. So, yeah.
And Sarah says, we don't acknowledge the tantrum. He can go ahead and tantrum to his heart's content. It's not changing our mind. So there's a tough one. Good for you.
Good job, Sarah.
Yeah, Celia recommends Time Tracker, a digital clock that uses green, yellow, and red lights. So this is interesting. Stuart says, some of these meltdowns can come as a result of attempting to build a new pattern of monitoring, and might be expected anytime you're changing this. Stand fair and firm. So yeah. A more specific question, I think, to parents who are trying to put in place the 1 hour rule. And this question comes from parents of younger children, 7, 8, 9, in that age. Do you have any thoughts on how to structure it? They're saying, you know, should there be an hour when they get home from school and then homework? Should there be homework and then an hour? You mentioned not using screen time as a reward, which makes sense. What do you have any sense in terms of the timing that
yeah,
I'm sure it depends on the family, but there must be some best practices.
Yeah, I have some actually pretty strong opinions about that.
Okay,
I
great.
don't think the kids should come home from school and play video games.
Right.
I think the kids should come home and run around.
Right.
I think that they've been sitting all day, especially in the population of kids that we're talking about here, that those kids need to move. You know, they can come home, have a snack, but I think, you know, but getting outside, doing something that's physically active, especially before homework, is going to be far more conducive to them getting their homework done efficiently, to learning a little bit more, to paying attention a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. So I think that for many kids, you know, that hour should be, you know, sometime after homework is done, but also after they've had a chance to run around. They're coming home, you know. Now some of these kids, especially these kids who love Minecraft, some of these kids are in school thinking about what they're going to do on Minecraft.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Their mind is on Minecraft.
Right.
You know, so when they get home, that's what they want to do. They want to try something out, which is great. If you think about it, they have to, you know, they're being creative. They're thinking about this stuff. But so my recommendation is typically to do it after homework, after some outside exercise time, but also to recognize that there's some pretty strong data that tells us that we want to shut off screens an hour before we go to bed. I mean, I have to find myself almost every night because I love to read before I go to bed, and I'm doing a lot of my reading now on my iPad as opposed to in books. So, but I notice there's a big difference when I go to bed at night and I read from a you know
really.
Book. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting to me because I too read from my Kindle at night. Oh my goodness, that's so.
Well, the Kindle might be a little bit better because of the lighting.
Yeah, the iPad is very bad.
It's different from the iPad. But there's some data around this, and it's, you know, and there's a few studies. It's now so again, I'd say keeping the kids off of the screen. So if their bedtime is 8:30, then you want to make sure that hour is before 7:30.
Okay.
So I think there's some pretty clear guidelines around that. You know.
Sandra
said, obviously different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Sandra says that in her family they use a point system where kids here, her son earns, for example, so many minutes for completing his reading, for his chores, for his math, and extra points for good behavior at school. At the end of the day, total amount of points is the time that they can have the next day on electronics, up to a maximum of 60 minutes. What's your feeling about that? That comes back to using, I think, game time as a reward. Or as dessert, as you said. What's your point of view on that?
Yeah, I get that, and I think I say that for kids where there's problematic use of screen time, that might be appropriate. For parents who believe that screen time is just not a really good thing, that it's, you know, that it is really dessert and I'm giving you a privilege, I would disagree with using it in that way. So okay. I think who's, you know, not getting homework done, not doing these things, that might be a tool that you want to use. But my discomfort with this is this idea that just because it's on a screen means it's a waste of time for kids. If you sit and watch a kid play Minecraft, you know that brain is working. They're really working hard, and so, you know, again, they shouldn't be their brain needs to be doing other things. So that's where the idea of a play diet comes into place, where you need to balance that. You need to be exercising all parts of your brain in different ways, all parts of your body in different ways.
Right.
So yeah.
There's a really interesting question. My son gets so frustrated and says that the game is out to get him, quote, externalizing his failure. He's obsessed with gaming, but it doesn't seem to be positive for him based on the reactions I see. Is there a way to teach him frustration management, or that it's not, quote, the game's fault? That's interesting, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It seems to me like if I heard that, I would think that that's happening in that game, but my guess is that might happen someplace else as well sometimes.
Right. That's sort of a mindset, not a game thing.
Mindset approach, and looking at that kind of thing might be something to recognize.
Yeah, a question. There are 3 or 4 teachers, clinicians on the webinar who were asking about using Minecraft in their practices. What do you think about that? Is there a role for a video game like Minecraft in a therapeutic setting?
Absolutely. So some of the early talk about using video games in therapy were around using them as games for expression of of feelings of affect and kind of anger and or just relationship building. But our approach, and we've got a whole clinicians portion of LearnWorks for Kids that has a lot of ideas about this as well. So clinicians can actually go find that, and there'll be all kinds of great ideas. But our idea is for clinicians to use Minecraft and other games in the same way that we're talking about as a skill building game. So that they might identify playing Minecraft with a kid who has problems, say, with cognitive flexibility, and try to kind of recognize where those skills are being used in the game, observe the kid in the game for a little bit of time, talk with them about how they had to be flexible, and getting them to kind of, again, generalize or transfer that game-based skill into a real-world skill. So we're using the game as a teaching tool. So that's, our general approach would be to think about these games as teaching tools, recognize the skills that are being used in each game, which is what we do at LearnWorks for Kids, and then kind of applying that in conversation, and then even trying to sometimes give the kid homework with that same thing. Not go home and play Minecraft for 5 hours a day, but when you play Minecraft, I want you to think about these things and jot a couple of these things down, or build a couple of these things, and kind of, we'll talk about it next time you come in. So you're giving the kid homework that involves playing video games, but it really involves thinking about the executive skills they use.
Interesting. Well, Amanda says, quote, "We have found a center that offers classes that really respect and use Minecraft in a positive way. It's a closed environment, and for her child, it's helpful to not only build self-esteem, but also interacting with peers in this environment." So that's interesting. So that sent me another way that Minecraft might be used out of the household.
Sure. So there's another place called Connected Camps. If anyone wants to look into that. So it's called Connected Camps. It's all one word, and they're doing some of that as well. They do actually a Minecraft camp and Minecraft vacation weeks. We're actually, one of the things that I'm talking about with my Minecraft students is actually putting together our own server for Minecraft, where we actually coach kids in using Minecraft. So we would invite kids in from LearnWorks for Kids. We'd invite kids in, and they'd actually play the game with our coaches, and again, talk about these skills. But Connected Camps already is doing this, not so much about executive functions, but just in general, sort of problem solving and sort of building.
Right.
Cool.
Right. That's great. Okay. I'm very afraid we're out of time. This has been, as you know, this topic is of tremendous interest. And everyone, I want to tell you that Randy and James have been extremely kind and have been willing to answer questions after the webinar. So if you want to send in any questions, or I'll go through the questions that we didn't get to, and we will send those to Randy and James. We will post their answers on attitudemag.com. So thank you so much, Randy and James. Please, everyone, check out their site, learningworksforkids.com. And again, thank you to our sponsor, Play Attention. I urge all of you to check it out. A great tool for executive function building skills. And we hope to see you at our next webinar on April 6th. It's about anxiety and depression. April 20 on a gap year and why students benefit from them. And April 28, growing up ADHD, lessons that medicine cannot teach. So thanks, everybody, and see you on April 6th in our next webinar. Thanks, Randy and James. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks for having us.